The Packers have officially signed their star player, but it's not the star you think it should be. Lamar Jackson is in a lawsuit with Troy Aikman over a number? I wonder if Aaron Rodgers is going to jump in on this one. And the baseball trade deadline is upon us, and unfortunately, baseball likes to celebrate which teams lose. That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive before free agency was ever a thing, my dad, Tim.
You finally got one that you were right about.
I've been right about all of them.
No, you
Number one, I have the pictures. Do we need to go back to that episode where I showed you in the fine dress?
No, but I was around. Free agency in baseball began in, I think there was, Curt Flood was the guy. He challenged something called the reserve clause, which basically meant that the teams owned you forever. They had to release you, and then you could go and sign with a different team, which they never did. So he took Bowie Kuhn, who was the commissioner at the time, took him to court. I think it ended up in the Supreme Court, if I can remember right. And then there was a guy, and this is really pulling one out of my back pocket. I think the guy's name was Andy Messersmith, a pitcher who was the first free agent. I don't know if I'm right, but I think I am.
Okay, time out. One, I didn't realize it went back that far.
It did.
Two, you don't remember what you had for breakfast today.
Very true.
I ask you to bring over eggs, and you forget. And you remember the whole story about baseball free agency?
It was a big thing at that time. Curt Flood, the guy who actually took them to court, I don't think ever got to take advantage of it.
I need to look this up. There's no way you remembered this well.
If I'm right, we'll continue talking about it. So when free agency started, they were scared to death that baseball would go away because of a thing called free agency. In return, what really happened is that baseball got more popular than ever.
In 1972, Flood versus Kuhn Supreme Court case, Curt Flood filed to begin the process. In 1975, arbitrator Pete Seitz ruled in favor of the players, effectively ending the reserve clause. Wow.
Say anything about, was I right about the player?
I don't have the player here. Who'd you say it was?
Andy Messersmith.
Andy Messersmith. What the hell?
I love baseball. I followed it religiously. It was my sport.
Okay. You officially have passed the cognitive test. You may now run for president. Well done.
Not on your life. I got so much in the closet. I had to have.
We all do. Apparently, it doesn't matter anymore.
Maybe not.
That's crazy that you remembered that.
It was huge news, and it was all over. The one thing I will say that I don't like about free agency, and we talked about it a little bit last week, was the fact that players in the American League stayed in the American League their whole career.
Really?
So the only time they get to play against the other stars from the other league was in the All-Star game or in the World Series.
Yeah, interleague play, I honestly am more on your side than I ever was before with ending interleague play.
It's diluted the game.
I think it would help baseball to not have that. Because even in the NFL, it's special cases when that's not true, though, because they have NFC North versus AFC East, NFC East. So
it rotates every 5 years.
It does rotate every 4 years with the division. So every 4 years, you're playing somebody different. Yeah. I think that the NFL is diluting that a little bit with adding the extra games because now you're starting to see the same teams over and over again. So I agree with you on that part where I think if you go back to just National League versus National League, American League versus American League, and separated the leagues again, it would be a lot better. But are you telling me in free agency even, they only signed with American League teams?
No. Once free agency hit, guys would move from league to league. Reggie Jackson obviously went from Oakland, then he went to Baltimore, then he went to Yankees. The Yankees were obviously the big
But
guys.
that's
in
American
free
League,
agent.
though.
He stayed in the American League, but other people would move from one league to another. And you just started seeing them more often. I liked it when they only saw each other sparingly. And I think they could go back to that. Look, we're playing softball in both leagues now with the DH. That's not coming. We're not going backwards. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. But it would be more special.
It's the natural evolution of baseball.
Did it become softball?
For the DHs, it's the natural evolution of baseball.
The only reason the DH came along was because the American League was having a hard time drawing. So they added the DH thinking, oh, it's going to be more runs. We'll get more fans. It's also going to be an extra roster spot. Ding, ding, ding. There it was. Extra roster spot, more money for the players.
Yeah.
And that's all the DH is now. It's a lot more money for the players for that one person.
Well, it makes sure your lineup is actually a lineup and there's not an easy out. You have to be honest. The pitcher was always an easy out. You have to get through the pitcher.
Not always.
Because if you had 2 outs and you got to the pitcher in the bottom of the 9th,
what are you going to do? You're going to pull him. You're going to let him hit. There's strategy involved.
I mean, even if bases are loaded, it's the 2nd inning, and your pitcher comes up to the plate.
Or okay, what if it's Warren Spahn? What if it's Kerry Wood? Those guys could hit.
Kerry Wood could kind of hit.
All he needs to do is at that point he can lay down a bunt.
It's 2 outs.
He can get. If you're a good bunter, pitchers could bunt in that day. Probably lay down a bunt
I want
or
my
hit
pitcher
one out.
pitching. I don't want my pitcher getting hurt running the bases. I need him on the mound.
Oh, they need to be athletes, and they can run the bases.
They don't.
They can.
They don't need to be athletes.
They need to be able to play the game.
They're athletic in different ways.
They need to play the game. It's still a sport.
It's the natural evolution of baseball.
It's the unnatural evolution. If you're going to evolve baseball, leave the pitchers pitching and leave the strategy in the game. If they went to the Carney plan, strategy would be back into the game.
Yes, where you limit pitching changes to once per inning.
Believe me, I want to get rid of a different pitcher every inning, which baseball is coming close to right now, thanks to guys like Craig Counsell.
Oh, don't get me started again on him. Not going there today. But and that's why I think the problem isn't 1 per inning. I don't have an issue with that. If the inning's over and you change the pitcher, I mean, I do. I don't like it by any means. But what I hate is the changing the pitcher during play of the game. In the middle of the inning, there's 2 outs, you bring in a different pitcher. I think you should only be able to do that once a game. There's your strategy, is you can only do it. But if you look at the DH was the natural evolution of baseball. It was going to get to that point. It's better just to allow it to happen.
No, you didn't need to happen. Your pitchers still need to play the entire game to play. And that was you see a lot less fights back when the pitcher actually had to face the guy he's batting.
I will give you that.
It was also better when the umpires let the 2 teams kind of police themselves.
Correct.
Instead of jumping involved and getting involved in everything.
The umpire ejections over the smallest things are getting to be ridiculous. I mean, we could do a whole show just on that. I'm 100% with you there.
And I want to see pitchers pitch again. We talked about this last week. Bob Gibson, Don Drysdale, who was notorious for pitching inside, Greg Maddux, they all pitched. They painted the corners. Nolan Ryan, even though he's overrated, knew how to pitch. He could throw one of the best curveballs you've ever seen.
Yeah, pitchers when I grew up were artists.
Now, how fast can you throw it? And does your ball move at all?
Well, you just said it. It's throwing now, not pitching. It's a different animal completely. You had to know how to throw a slider and how to place it. You could throw it 88 miles per hour. It didn't make a difference as long as you could place the ball where you needed it to be. Now if you're not throwing 97, you don't even get a shot.
You don't even see pitches.
And that's why pitchers are getting hurt.
Well, and you also don't see pitches like a split finger fastball,
Easy for you to say.
Or a forkball, or a knuckleball.
You see the knuckleball every now and then.
Very rarely. I think Tim Wakefield.
You never saw the knuckleball?
Sure you did. You had the Necros. You had Tim Wakefield. There was always one or two.
That's 2 pitchers in 50 years.
There was not a lot of them. I'm not arguing that. But there was Hoyt Wilhelm that started it. Phil and Joe Necro both threw it. There was always guys who could throw a knuckleball.
Yeah.
And when it's on, it is the most impossible pitch to hit. When it's off, balls go out real fast.
I remember watching Tim Wakefield one day when it wasn't on, and he was pulled real quick.
My favorite knuckleball story is Phil Niekro was going for his 300th win, which is something we're never going to see again. But he wanted to just prove to everybody, damn it, I'm a pitcher. He didn't throw one knuckleball until the last out. And then he threw the knuckleball for his out pitch, and he got his 300th win.
You got to pitch the knuckleball for your 300th win. And throwing a knuckleball doesn't mean you're not a pitcher. But you look at R.A. Dickey, the only knuckleballer to ever win a Cy Young. But again, he was effective for 1 year.
He had a long career. Knuckleballers lasted a long time.
Paycheck. That's what happened.
They got big paychecks.
That's R.A. Dickey got paid and then couldn't play anymore.
Speaking of getting paid, you mentioned on your intro that a certain Green Bay Packer got paid.
You 100% did. Nice segue, by the way. That was awesome. Not the guy we were expecting to see get paid.
Kenny Clark signed a $64 million contract.
Somewhere in that ballpark for his
third contract. But he's only 28. One of the keys to the defense. I think it was a good signing.
I think it was too. You needed to solidify your defensive line. That was very, very important to happen. Not the guy we need to sign, though.
Guy we need to sign is standing out in the pouring rain, not throwing balls right now.
And this is what I love about Jordan Love. He's there with his team, and he's making sure he is there with his team. I also don't blame him in this situation for not practicing. For those of you that don't know the situation, Jordan Love had a deadline of the beginning of free agency, which was on Monday.
Beginning of training camp,
I'm sorry, which, I was supposed to be at, except for the fact that this man over here decided his eye needed to have surgery.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm on here today with my eye looking funky, but I'm here for the people that loved our show.
It was the opening of training camp.
Yes.
And it was a stockholder meeting.
It was. And everybody thought Jordan Love contract's going to be announced.
And it wasn't.
Nope.
I don't know what's holding this up, but Jordan Love is holding in, as they say. He's there for practice, and he's there with the team, which is awesome. I think it's great. But how is this not signed yet? You've had since the end of the year to sign this contract and get it done.
You've had since the first part of May when he was allowed to sign it.
Right. But you had since the end of the year, since the Packers lost to the 49ers, you've had all that time knowing this was coming and haven't done anything about it.
The Packers screwed the pooch on this one.
And how is nobody talking about that? How is nobody mentioning this?
Well, we are.
The reason that this is happening is the Packers want to say, listen, we want to see more than 9 games. I get that.
You can't do it again.
You had that opportunity. Last year, before the season, the Packers renegotiated with Jordan Love to give him, they could have just signed with a 5th-year option, $25 million guaranteed.
He plays this year again for $25 million.
It's done.
Yes.
But they decided to get cute. And they said, we're going to renegotiate your 5th year to be $10 million guaranteed, incentive-laden, and then we'll get 2 years out of you. Clearly, they didn't think he was going to be this good right away. And now you have a quarterback who's not going to play on that.
And he shouldn't. Jordan Love came out and overplayed. They bet, and the Packers lost big time because even paying him $25 last year is a whole lot less than having to pay him $55 to $60 this year.
Correct.
Which is what they're going to have to pay him.
I mean, it's going to be even more next year. I mean, with the way the quarterback contracts are going up. I mean, you look at 4 years ago, a quarterback contract, $35, $40 million a year was a lot of money.
Look at Daniel Jones, $40 million, looks like a steal right now.
And the Giants knew that.
Yeah. And
like, we're going to get this now because this isn't going to be cheap in a couple of years.
But the Packers wanted to wait. They played the game last year. Jordan Love outplayed them and said, and really just laid down his 4 aces.
Yep.
Said, here you go. Now pay me. And then they sat and watched as Jared Goff got signed a contract.
Yep.
As Kirk Cousins signed a big contract.
Yep.
As Trevor Lawrence signed a big contract. And the price of poker for them just kept going up and up and up. And now Jordan Love's sitting there going, I was the absolute best quarterback in football for the last 11 games of last season.
Yep.
Pay me or I'm not practicing. And the Packers aren't going to go into the year with Michael Pratt or Sean Clifford as their starting quarterback.
No, they're not.
So get it done.
Everybody knows this is going to be done. It's clearly over language, I think, is more than anything, and it's about guaranteed money.
That's what it's over.
I mean, this is Aaron Rodgers' agent. They have the same agent.
Which I think is funny as hell.
It is, because, I mean, where this benefits Jordan Love is Aaron Rodgers' agent knows how the Packers work.
Yeah, and the Packers
knows how to play this game.
Look, and Gutekunst has come out and said, well, we've got to try to make sure we can pay the team around him. It's not Jordan Love's issue.
That's why you work the contract so it doesn't affect the salary cap. That's how these work. It's a 5-year deal that's really a 3-year deal, and then you renegotiate it after 3 years.
Yeah, and then they'll get the buybacks, and they'll give him an extra signing bonus that doesn't cut against Russ Ball, who's the finance guy for the Packers, is brilliant at draftology.
Correct.
Capology.
Yep.
He can move money around, and it's all monopoly money at this point. The cap is going to continue to go up.
Correct.
I think it's just under $300 million this year, and it's going to be approaching.
Keep going up.
It'll be $400 million probably within the next 5 years.
Yeah. Sign him now. You have to get this done. You need Jordan Love in camp. Now, the beginning of training camp, from everything I've heard from every NFL player I've ever listened to, you're really working on your individual stuff right now.
Okay.
So him not being there the first couple weeks, probably not that big of a deal. But you have to get him in ASAP.
Look, on the face of it, Jordan Love doesn't deserve this contract. I don't think he had 1 year. I would want to see him play a second year, which
you had that option.
I understand. You always cut me off. Yes, they should have signed him to the 5th-year option last year, so he would have been playing on that for that amount of money this year, and you really would have seen what you have. Because I've seen quarterbacks, Carson Wentz, have a great year and then take a huge step back.
Carson Wentz was,
I know,
a little bit more.
And I don't think that's going to happen to Jordan Love. He's worked his behind off, and I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. But stranger things have happened.
Well, listen, you need to get this contract done because there are other quarterbacks that are about to get contracts.
You got Dak Prescott. You got Tua.
Dak Prescott won't get done until next year. Odds are Dak Prescott is going to enter free agency.
Dak Prescott's going to get paid way more than Jerry's willing to pay him.
He's going to get paid 60 plus.
Yes.
Tua, his contract's under negotiation right now. So who knows what his is going to look like.
Tua's a different situation because of the injury issues he's had.
He is.
They're holding that over his head big
100%.
time.
100%. But say all of a sudden Tua, with all the injury issues that he's had, comes in at $50 million a year.
Which he will.
Okay. Well, now the price of poker just went up again.
I think the Love number, figuring everything else in, at this point is going to be 58.
Yeah. I said 60.
I know you did. I don't think it's going to get to 60. I think Love wants 60. Just figure it out so it looks like it's 60. But I think 58 is the magic number at this point.
Okay. Get it done.
I mean, 55 is the current high watermark between
Joe Burrow and
Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. The difference is, Trevor Lawrence's looks like 55. It's really not when it comes to guaranteed money. Joe Burrow has a lot more in guaranteed. But, I mean, just copy and paste Trevor Lawrence contract and get it done.
I don't think he'd sign for $142 million guaranteed. What did Jared Goff get, 175?
Yeah, his salary was less.
I think the guarantee number has to be in that 160.
And Goff has been a top 3 quarterback for the last 3 years.
Yes, he's proven his worth. The only knock I have on Jordan Love, or on Jared Goff rather, is the fact that he is a true pocket passer. And when that pocket collapses, if you can really give him pressure up the middle, he goes down. He doesn't have the skills that Jordan Love does, for example, or Tua, that can get out of the pocket and make a throw running to the left or right.
He's been farther in the playoffs than Jordan Love has. So
absolutely.
I don't know what to tell you there.
This is the best conference in football, theoretically.
It's becoming that. I think that the Vikings are going to be a lot worse.
I think
people think they're going to be.
And we don't know about the Bears yet.
I could see the Vikings getting the first overall pick next year.
They'll screw up the clock and miss their draft pick.
The Bears, I think Caleb Williams is going to have a fine first year, but as soon as people get tape on him, I mean, he's going to start to take a big downward turn.
I think Jaden Daniels is a better quarterback. He can do a lot of things. He doesn't have the pressure Caleb Williams has on him.
Well, okay, let me ask you this question then. Out of the rookie quarterbacks this year, because Jordan Love's going to prove once again this year he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's going to continue his Hall of Fame trajectory and become the best quarterback in the league for the next 10 years. It's just what's going to happen. So,
says somebody who is a Packer owner. But go ahead.
How dare you consider this a homer pick? And how dare you think...
As you sit there with a Love t-shirt on, I can say that very easily.
Because all you need is love. I mean, everybody knows that. That's been around since you were a young lad. All you need is love.
Go on, you were going to say.
And mine happens to be a number 10.
Yeah.
But I lost my train of thought. How dare you? Oh, rookie quarterbacks.
Yes.
Coming into this league. Which one do you think starts first? And because we know who's going to start.
Caleb
Williams is going to start.
Yeah.
Which one has the best year? And which one has the best career overall?
So
Caleb, we have 6, right?
Yeah, and I'm not counting the first 4, other than Williams and Daniels.
We have Williams. You have Daniels.
J.J. McCarthy.
You have Drake May.
Yeah.
You have J.J. McCarthy. You have Bo Nix. And you have the quarterback who I think is going to be the best.
Down in Atlanta.
Down in Atlanta. Now I need to look this up.
Yeah.
But who do you think out of all those quarterbacks is going to have the best year?
I think Caleb Williams has a lot of weapons around him. So I think he's going to have a good year. Long term, Denver really believes in Bo Nix.
Denver really believes in Bo Nix.
Yeah, he sees him as the next Drew Bledsoe. Jane Daniels, I think, is set up to be the best long-term player as long as he doesn't get hurt.
Okay.
So I will go with, I think the best Drake May is in a no-win position. He has no weapons. And I don't think he's going to, I just think he's going to be out of the league in 5 years.
You think Drake May's going to be out of the league in 5 years?
Unless they get him some weapons.
I can see my different team, but out of the league, I don't know about that.
He may be a backup, but to me, that's out of the league. J.J. McCarthy may grow into being a starter for the Vikings, but I don't think.
What do you think about Michael Penix Jr.?
Possibilities. That could end up being a quarterback competition down in Atlanta.
This year?
Yes. If Kirk Cousins is suffering at all because of that Achilles heel, yes, it's going to be a competition this year because the fans are going to start calling for Penix Jr. to get in there. They want the future, and they want it now. I think Kirk Cousins will have a fine year as long as his.
I don't understand fans like that, though. Like, you have the future. That's great. So enjoy the present, get a Super Bowl, and then move on to the next quarterback.
I don't think they get to the Super Bowl even with Kirk Cousins. He's never proven that he can get anybody to the Super Bowl.
They have a hell of a team. He was on his way to do it this year for the Vikings, then got hurt.
I don't know that they would have gotten that far. And then I just think Caleb Williams is going to have such a target on his back that he's going to, I think you're right. I think he'll have a good year this year. I'm not sure about next year.
Let's skip career. I just want to know about this year. Who's going to have the best out of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix? Who's going to have the best year?
Caleb Williams will have the best year because I think they're going to go all in to try to do whatever they can because you got a coach on the hot seat.
Yep.
That's the problem that Williams is going to have. He may go through this coach, and then there'll be another new system next year. And we've seen what happens with those. Remember Alex Smith in San Francisco?
I was just about to say Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen it with Sam Bradford.
Yes.
Not Sam Bradford, Sam Darnold, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Who's, again, on another system, another offensive coordinator with Minnesota. We've seen it time and time again where this is, to me, why you don't make a quarterback pick first. You make sure you have the team in place, and I think the Bears have done that right. Or well, I think Caleb Williams is going to have the better first half of the season and then come down to reality of what's going to happen in the NFL. I think Jaden Daniels is going to start off slower and then start to really take on that position of star quarterback the second half of the year.
Still worries me they've got a defensive coach over there.
Here's the issue, I think. Drake May's not going to play this year.
No.
You have Jacoby Brissett, who Gerard Mayo has already said is his starting quarterback.
One injury away.
And you have Bailey Zappi sitting there too.
I think
who will step in ahead of Drake May. If they start Drake May this year, then they're stupid.
You know who I think is going to have the best long-term? Could be Bo Nix. Because he's got the best offensive quarterback.
Yes, but you're skipping my question. I'm just asking you.
This year,
and Bo Nix is most likely going to start.
Yes, he will, but I don't think he's going to have. He'll have a passable year. I don't think he's going to be.
I'm nervous about Bo Nix this year because you could wreck a quarterback this year.
You're going to throw him into a bad situation. They're still recovering after getting rid of Wilson, rebuilding that team, and this is a guy who's got to be a quarterback. Now, Peyton is a great quarterback coach, and he will give him protection.
Sure.
But it's
I've seen it happen too many times. Look what happened to David Carr. Why are we thinking about the same players right now?
I don't know.
It's too bizarre. David Carr, I think was better than his brother.
Yes.
I think would have had a really outstanding career, but he
went to the wrong place.
I mean, he was sacked 140 something times in 2 years, and that's what Bo Nix is going to walk into. So I think Caleb Williams is going to have the better first half. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have the better year overall. So now let's go on to career.
Both have defensive coaches.
Because Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., and J.J. McCarthy are not going to start this year.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to see any of them on the field.
If Bo Nix can survive this year and work with Sean Payton, and Payton can put his system in, they're going to be a dangerous team.
Okay.
Penix Jr. has just got mad skills, though.
Penix Jr. not only has mad skills, and who I picked to be the best quarterback out of this draft class last year at this time, but he also is in the best situation because you have a hell of a roster on the offensive side of the ball. They need to re-up that offensive line in the draft, which I think they will, and make sure he's protected. But he's got outstanding weapons that are young and ready to go. He gets to sit back and learn. As long as he can stay healthy, I think he is going to have the best career.
To be able to sit back and learn under Kirk Cousins, it's the closest thing anywhere else in the NFL to what Green Bay does.
Yes.
Right now, you've got Kirk Cousins.
It's 2
years.
He's
going to play, and then Penix Jr. comes in and takes over. Green Bay, Favre to Rodgers. Everybody is jumping on the Love bandwagon that he's going to be the next one. I'd love to see it. He's had one good season. I'd love to see him have another great year this year and go off into the stratosphere to be the first team to have back-to-back Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. I have not crossed.
It's already happened.
I have not crossed that bridge yet.
It's already happened.
You don't. He's had
back Hall of Famers. First team in history to do it, and we'll walk away with 3 Super Bowls from it.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We got to start winning some Super Bowls if they go back-to-back.
If you went back-to-back, if you think of when you were a young lad, if a team went back-to-back and each had 1 Super Bowl, that's awesome. It's been twisted because of Tom Brady and now the Chiefs doing what they've done. Patrick Mahomes.
I don't think it's been twisted that way because if you look back in the day, you went Roger Staubach, you had Terry Bradshaw, then Joe Montana. They were winning multiples. We had back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and we got a grand total of 2 Super Bowls out of it.
Yeah, but a lot of NFC championship trips.
Speaking of NFC, AFC championships.
Hold on. I want to go back into this real quick before we jump. I do want to talk about this, but I think this is too important because I don't think you've answered the question yet.
I have.
Which one of these guys, one of these players is going to come out on top, maybe 2. This isn't 1983, right? You're not going to see 3 or 4 Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
No. And I don't think Jaden Daniels is in the best situation because he's got a defensive coach. They don't usually work well. Caleb Williams, I think, is set up to go from coach to coach to coach.
I agree.
It's going to be Penix Jr. or Bo Nix.
What about J.J. McCarthy?
J.J. McCarthy, I think, is going to be the first of the bunch.
He's the most overrated quarterback out of all of them.
Out of the league. His own coach wouldn't draft him.
What about Drake May?
Nothing, no weapons. He'll be a journeyman backup. Like I said, he'll be out in 5 years.
What about Jaden Daniels? You were super high on Jaden Daniels.
I love Jaden Daniels. Again, I worry about the fact he's got a defensive coach. They've got some weapons. His talent is going to take him only so far. They've got to surround him. They've got to get the offensive line. Don't do what you did to Robert Griffin III.
Well, I mean, if he gets hurt, yeah. But you have a defensive coach that, don't forget, had the number 1 offense in the league when he was in Atlanta.
And how'd that work out for him?
They had a 28-3 lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl.
And how'd that work out for him?
His defense, as a defensive guru coach, your defense probably shouldn't let you down in a Super Bowl.
Probably not. Jaden Daniels has a chance to be a great quarterback.
But he's a one-year guy.
He's a one-year guy.
He is another one-year guy. Michael Penix Jr. was really good in Indiana, and then had 2 really good years in Washington.
Yeah.
Bo Nix was really bad at Auburn, and then turned it around in Oregon. But he's had a lot of starts under his belt.
He's in the best situation with the head coach.
Caleb Williams seemed to quit towards the end of his USC career. Drake May is extremely inconsistent and always has been with his passing abilities. J.J. McCarthy threw the ball 5 times for over 20 yards last year.
So can we just dismiss him and move on?
We can move on. I think you're right, though. I think it's going to be Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. My pick is Michael Penix Jr., but Bo Nix has a shot. I think Caleb Williams is going to have the best year, and Michael Penix Jr. is going to have the best career.
Okay.
All right, on to what you were saying. I have a feeling I know where you're going, and this is going to be a whole nother conversation.
Have you seen USA Today this week?
Yeah.
Picking their Super Bowl, the Jets versus the Packers, with the Jets winning.
I don't agree with that part.
I don't agree with either part.
Really?
Jets are not going to make the Super Bowl this year. Nope. Look at what they've got to get over. You've got Joe Burrow, who has something to prove this year.
You have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Okay. Coming off an Achilles heel.
I've seen him come off of a broken collarbone twice. Once in his throwing hand.
Sure.
Arm, not hand. Collarbone's up here.
You still have Patrick Mahomes.
You have Aaron Rodgers.
Give me Mahomes at this point all day long, twice on Sunday. You've got Josh Allen.
Yeah, you have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. And Aaron Rodgers, how did he look in the last year in Green Bay?
Good until he quit.
I don't remember him looking good at all that year.
He had a broken thumb. That was the year before.
Yeah. He checked out. He's got so much else going on. I know he really wants it.
If he can actually follow his own advice, though, and make it about football.
And there's the real hook in what you've said. Can he follow his own advice? No.
We don't know that.
I realize he hasn't talked to his family, and it's none of my business, but in almost 10 years.
I don't talk to Aaron Rodgers myself, so I don't know what the story is there.
I don't either.
I don't know.
Still his parents.
I believe in, unless I got it from the source, I definitely don't believe what the media spins stories to be. The media hates Aaron Rodgers.
No, there's a good book. There's a good book coming out on him that'll be interesting to read.
Did Aaron Rodgers get interviewed for this book?
Actually, he did.
Well, then, okay. That's a different ballgame. You have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, what's
Patrick
your point?
Mahomes, you are a Travis Kelce injury away from them not being relevant. As good as Patrick Mahomes is, he has no receivers. They got Worthy in the draft, who I think could be good, but we don't know. The guy seems to be very much a Marquez Valdez-Scantling type where can run really fast, but can he catch the ball?
The only thing I'm going to say
Travis Kelce's 35.
I get it. The only thing I'm going to say about Rodgers is Rodgers, with a chip on his shoulder, has always been very dangerous.
He has been.
He's got one coming in. He only played 4 snaps last year.
Yeah. He's ready to win. You have Josh Allen, who now doesn't have a number 1 receiver. You have Lamar Jackson, who hasn't proven that he can be a reliable passer and who is getting older. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be that same lightning bolt that he was. We saw the same thing happen to Michael Vick. His was more of a dog situation, but when he came back, he became a pocket passer. And Lamar Jackson has to start to transition into that because he's not going to be as athletic as he used to be. You have
Herbert and
Burrow, who hasn't been able to stay healthy. You have Herbert, who hasn't proven he can do anything yet.
He's got Harbaugh this year. I think that's going to be a great combination.
Okay, prove it.
I think they will.
You have Trevor Lawrence, who
we don't know.
We need to see this year what he's going to be. I mean, Tua, who stayed very healthy last year.
He did, but
learned how to fall.
He can't.
Tua's doing something really smart, though.
He can't play in under 40 or 30 degree weather.
Which is true, which surprises me because you look at Tyreek Hill, and he played in Kansas City. I don't know why all of a sudden he can't play in the cold, but he can't. You have a lot of potential of great quarterback play.
Yeah.
But again, if Travis Kelce gets hurt and can't play for a long period of time, it will be interesting to see what Patrick Mahomes can do with the weapons that they have. They don't have another tight end, and Andy Reid loves to run plays to the tight end.
He does, and he's probably coming down to be one of the best coaches in the history of the game.
But he runs an underneath to the tight end. He did it in Green Bay back in the 90s with Mark Chmura and Keith Jackson. You run the underneath to open it up to Antonio Freeman and Robert Brooks down the field.
Okay.
And they had the same problem with Antonio Freeman of catching the ball, but if it was a hard catch, he made it every single time.
He's on his back on Monday Night Football. He's going to catch that pass.
Yeah, I loved Antonio Freeman.
Until Andy Reid is beaten and Mahomes is beaten, the Jets aren't getting to the Super Bowl.
I understand that. But, again, they rely on that tight end a lot. And you have a 35-year-old tight end who talk about distractions he has off the field. He has probably the biggest distraction the world has ever known.
Really?
I think so.
Who is that?
I don't remember.
We don't talk about her.
Who? Anyway.
Kelsey's girlfriend, who's on TV more than football.
Joke.
I know.
That was the joke. Moving on. So until those guys prove the year they're going to have, because Patrick Mahomes had a down year last year. He really did.
Until he really needed to step up and play, and he did.
And he did, and I think he's going to be great. And I think they're going to be playoff bound again, and they're the team to beat until they get beat. But you still have Aaron Rodgers, who is one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game, who got a year of rest last year.
He had a year of rehab.
Okay, same thing.
Not the same thing.
He's coming back. He's going to be stronger. He's going to be better. It would not surprise me at all to see the Jets in the Super Bowl this year.
I think the Packers are more likely to be in the Super Bowl than the Jets. And I don't think the Packers are getting into the Super Bowl this year.
Well, then who's going to Super Bowl?
If I had to pick,
not the Niners.
If I had to pick right now, have they been beaten yet? No.
Yeah, I think it's beaten themselves by not signing their receiver.
I think if I have to make a pick right now, I'm going to say Kansas City and Detroit.
Gross.
Yeah. But until somebody beats Kansas City, and Detroit was really good last year.
Detroit's dangerous. Detroit is very, very dangerous this year. I agree. But Goff also has to prove he can get paid and then have a good season the next year.
I get it.
Because the last time he got paid ridiculous money, he was with the Rams for one more year and then got traded.
And they gave a lot away
to get to get rid of him.
I'll give you this. I actually think the Rams are going to win that division as long as Stafford stays healthy.
I can see that. It's not going to be the Cardinals.
No.
Not going to be the Seahawks.
No.
So I could definitely see.
I think the Rams are
the Rams.
I think the Rams
or the Niners.
Well, the Niners could get back there again. I just don't want to see the Niners get back there again.
Well, there's a want, and then there's what's going to happen. Yes, the NFC path is much easier right now than the AFC path. I agree. And listen, Love's going to win a Super Bowl this year. It's going to happen. Packers are going to win a Super Bowl.
No, they're not. They're a year away. If everything keeps going along, they've got to get him in the camp. And you say that he's working on individual things for the first couple of weeks. He needs all the training camp he can get.
I agree. They need to get him in. But I could easily see a Packers-Jets Super Bowl. One, it's the greatest story that history has ever told. And two, I really want it to happen.
Yeah. I would love
this. It's the greatest story history has ever told.
It would be the most iconic Super Bowl ever.
But to say that it's not going to happen, I think is ridiculous. It could very easily happen.
No, I think it's less than 20% that
this isn't like saying the Cardinals versus the Raiders in the Super Bowl here. I mean, that sounds ridiculous and isn't going to happen. The odds of that are worse than winning the lottery. You have a team.
We forgot one team in the AFC he's got to go over.
Who?
C.J. Stroud in Houston, who got nothing but better in the draft.
They're going to be a dangerous team.
They're going to be very dangerous.
Who did C.J. Stroud play for in college again? I keep forgetting. Oh, yes, the Ohio State University. How many Wisconsin starting quarterbacks are there? Oh, yeah, that's right. There aren't any. Just wanted to double check. I can't.
How many are there from Ohio State? You've had one.
2.
Joe Burrow is LSU.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, he's not starting anymore.
He will be.
Pittsburgh's trying to move him to be a return man.
3, if you include Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow's LSU.
Did he play for Ohio State?
He hated it there.
Yeah, definitely didn't hate it there. Did he play for Ohio State? Did he wear an Ohio State jersey?
Only for a picture, and that was it. Stop it.
He was there, and it counts. If a quarterback from Wisconsin transferred to another team and then all of a sudden became the number 1 overall pick, would you not say he was Wisconsin?
No.
Liar. Absolute liar.
By the way, you know what I've loved about this conversation? We're talking about everything that's going to happen in the future in football.
Yes.
Unlike my favorite sport, which is baseball, who in the offseason, you have the hot stove league, which usually means one trade.
Yeah.
Their biggest moment is coming up. The trade deadline, where certain teams just give up on their entire season and other teams will rent players for the year.
You promised you wouldn't upset me today. We had a whole pre-production meeting where you said you weren't going to bring this up.
I lied. It's ridiculous that baseball is doing this, and they don't have to. The reason they do this is because they've got 5 teams in each division, and by this time during the season, 3 at least are out of the running. Go ahead.
I don't want to.
Baseball needs to fix this. The biggest.
This is what pisses me off about baseball more than anything. And I hate you for this. I hate you for this. I didn't want to be angry today, but it bothers me beyond belief, because the most exciting part of baseball is the time of year where teams give up.
Mm-hmm.
That's all this is. You can say, well, it's teams getting ready for the playoff run. No, it's not. It's somebody's favorite team selling off all their assets and making the team wonder why they ever cared this year in the first place. If you're a Marlins fan, congratulations. You're about to see all those players you cheered for just play for another team. If you're the White Sox, congratulations. You're about to see your team completely sell every single player you enjoy away. They're just going to get rid of them. And if you're a contending team, if you're the Yankees, congratulations. Yeah, they're going to make a run now, but they're giving up their entire future to get a star player. If you're the Dodgers, congratulations. Your farm system's just been depleted. If you are any winning team, your future is gone because they are going to give up literally the farm to get one player that most likely isn't going to get you a World Series victory. This is the most ridiculous time because there's no winning for anybody here. None. Because a player that you love as a fan is going to be gone, and a player that is a rent-a-player that may not even get you to where you need to be is going to be brought in for 6 months and then gone, and your entire future, which your team, by the way, told you, pay attention to our farm system, this kid's going to be a star for us. Well, now he's going to go and be a star for another team. It happens over and over and over again, and I hate it. I hate it. It's a no-win for fans at all. It's a no-win for the baseball team. Why, if you're winning now, are you going to give up your entire future to probably not win?
Then there are teams like the Cubs who bring in Chapman at the trade deadline and burn his arm out by pitching him.
Joe Madden did everything he could to cost the Cubs that World Series.
Did.
Everything he could. And look at our future now. We gave up our entire farm for Chapman, and I don't think any of those players turned out in the trade. I'd have to look back, so it probably didn't matter anyway. But he just went right back to the Yankees.
Right.
And we got nothing out of it. We got a World Series, which was great. He wasn't even the closer for the World Series. Won us some games in the end. Again, they burned him out. And so he wasn't even as impactful later on as he should have been because they used him too much because they didn't have any other relievers. But this is a no-win for anybody in the sport. Baseball needs to go where your off-season moves are the most important, and then that's your team. Ride with your team. Baseball, that's another thing that drives me nuts with baseball. I'm going to build this team for the start of the season, and then, by the way, 2 months before the season ends, this team is going to look completely different. It drives me nuts because who are you supposed to cheer for as a fan? If you're a Pirates fan, guess what? Skeens, who is the first pitcher in Major League Baseball history to start an all-star game the year after he's drafted. I hate to tell you this, Pittsburgh, in 3 years, he's not going to be a Pirate anymore. And that's disgusting to think about.
It would be like if the NFL, when it comes to the end of October, you saw your favorite players, your best wide receivers, your best offensive linemen getting traded to another team, and you just giving up on it. They don't do that because every year it averages 7 to 7.5 teams go to the playoffs that weren't there the year before.
It could be that in baseball.
Could be.
You just kept your stars and then focus more on the offseason on who you're going to bring in. Imagine, if you will, give me a bad team from last year.
Pittsburgh.
The Steelers?
Oh, the NFL?
NFL team.
Oh, Cleveland was decent. Indianapolis was decent.
Let's say
Washington, the Commanders.
Okay. Well, they did exactly what I'm talking about. They did trade away all their players, so that's a bad example. But everybody hated it. Let's look at Arizona. Let's look at Arizona. Say Arizona all of a sudden traded away Kyler Murray midway through the season. It would probably be a good thing, and I can't think of any stars, but imagine your team. This is a bad example. Why did you let me go down this path? Because the one example we have, they actually did what I'm talking about.
Well, and
let's talk about that. If you're a Commanders fan, they just traded away your entire defense halfway through the season, and now all of a sudden you have this star quarterback in Jaden Daniels, and you've traded away half your team. And so now you're starting from scratch, even though you just got a big quarterback. This is ridiculous.
The Giants are in the same boat. Here's another. In the plan that you and I came up with, we had kind of adopted what the NFL does. And instead of having 3 5-team divisions where several teams are out of it, we flip that and we have 5 3-team divisions. People go, there's not enough teams there. Sure there is, because you're in the running throughout the entire season. So if there is a trade at the deadline, it'll be very strategic, because if you're a team that's in 3rd place this year, it's easy to turn around to be in 1st place next year, and you don't want to give up that talent.
I mean, you look at a Pittsburgh Pirates roster where they had Garrett Cole, they had Andrew McCutchen, they had all these star players. The problem is, though, is they're all there at different times because they don't keep their same players. They're obsessed with, we're going to trade this away, get more prospects, and then we'll keep always rebuilding. But all you're doing is building a team and trading it away, building a team and trading it away, building a team and trading it away.
And you know who wins?
Freaking accordion.
The only one that wins out of that is the owner, who gets a ton of money in his pocket.
Fans don't win because you're never building a consistent winner, and the players you love to watch are always gone, or you're a Mike Trout situation where you keep playing this game, but we're going to keep Mike Trout, and we're just going to suck forever, but come and watch Mike Trout play, who nobody ever watches because the team is so bad.
And Mike Trout is regretting his decision to keep signing with the Angels.
I hate this about baseball. I really do, because I've lived through this my entire life, where you watch a team starting to get built, it's starting to come together, and then it's all traded away. And you have these players that go on to finish great seasons, great careers, whatever it may be. But it's like, why even pay attention?
I'll give you an example. Greg Maddux, they let get away for $500,000. Granted, this was in the postseason.
It's in the postseason. That's when it should happen.
But they let him get away for $500,000, which is just insane.
Yeah.
Milwaukee did it with Paul Molitor.
Yeah, but that's the end of the season. That's when it should happen.
I understand that. But these teams don't think strategically and build their teams wisely. They'll give up on some of the best players just because, well, that means that money's coming out of our pocket. We better not do that.
But it's worse than that. This isn't even fighting over $500,000 on Greg Maddox's deal because, again, that's the end of the season, and now you're building a new roster without him. You have those plans. This is like all of a sudden you have Greg Maddux on your team and the Cub trades him before the deadline. That's what keeps happening. And Paul Skeens is a perfect example for the Pittsburgh Pirates because he is the next Pirate that will not finish his career a Pirate. No. In 3 years, he will be traded by Pittsburgh for players nobody's ever heard of that won't turn out in the big leagues because they rarely ever do. And then Pittsburgh's like, what the hell? That's the guy we came to watch play, and you got rid of him. And now Pittsburgh's like, well, watch these new players. It's like, why? They're just going to be gone in 3 years. If you just would have kept the star players, we'd actually have a pretty consistent contender. And for the winners, these players are going to age out. And you're trading your future completely away because you want to maybe win now.
Yes.
And you know the teams that win are the teams that make the least amount of moves at the trade deadline.
Typically, yes. Feel better?
No, I don't, because this is still ridiculous. I hate this about baseball. I hate this time because all it is, oh, I'm going to open up my phone and see which player I've really enjoyed watching play. I'm no longer going to get to do that. And that sucks. And it's the same thing when players come to the team, because normally you're losing somebody from your team that is also a pretty decent player who you also enjoy cheering for. And now they're gone.
Look, when you always railed me on my love of the 82 Brewers, but I watched that team for 4 or 5 years. Same team.
Right.
Couple moves here and there.
Sure.
But it was basically the same core of that team until they got older and, retired out. But you had the 2016 Cubs that should have been competitive for 5, 6, 7 years. But within 3 years, they traded everybody away.
Yep. Now, I mean, you look at Chris Bryant, he's had back injuries. It is what it is. But
Javi Baez, who is...
Who knows what happened?
I want to know what happened to Javi Baez.
I don't know. He's not the same player, but he sure was fun to watch in Chicago. But you look at Anthony Rizzo. That one stung. Anthony Rizzo, gone. I mean, he's in a different team. You completely broke apart that team. This team's going to be completely broken apart. It's just, if you're a fan, why buy a jersey? I mean, that is my biggest question. If I'm a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, there's no point in buying a Skeens jersey. There's zero reason to do it. Because if you're buying a jersey in the NFL, right, I always get the quarterback's jersey. Because why? Because Favre was there forever, Rodgers was there forever, and now Love's going to be there forever.
You do know how rare that is, right?
In Green Bay, it happens all the time. I haven't, in my lifetime, not had a Hall of Fame quarterback. This is pretty awesome. I don't care what other teams do. This is about me, clearly. If you want that, become a Packer fan. Because it happens all the time.
Yes. Nobody wears 8 here.
Nobody does wear 8 here. I see what you're doing. Let me finish my thought here.
Okay.
But if you're a Major League Baseball fan, and this is where Major League Baseball again screws up, there is 0 point in buying a jersey of a player that's currently on your roster. Because odds are, in 3 years, that player's not going to be playing for your team anymore. Now, you have the Aaron Judges where you've decided that's our player. Still no guarantee he's going to be there. You have your Christian Yelich for the Brewers. He's there, but only because he's been hurt and he's untradeable with his contract. If he were to play up to his contract, he would have been traded at this point. If you have great players, look at San Diego. They're about to dismantle that roster at the trade deadline. The White Sox, there's nobody there to cheer for. But if you did cheer for somebody, they're also going to be gone. And I just think that's a disgusting practice in baseball, and it hurts the fans.
It does, but it's been happening for decades. The trade deadline should not be this important at this time of the year.
You built a team. I think it's a cowardly thing done by GMs. You built your team specifically. Now, injuries happen, right? And that's part of it. But you built your team, and you have built your farm system. Believe in what you did and give the fans what they've asked for. You told them to pay attention to all these players. You told them to pay attention to all the players in the farm system. And so keep your promise and build that team and win with the team you told your fans was going to win. It drives me. I hate the trade deadline.
I love when you go on your rants.
I hate the trade deadline, but you are right that so far everybody I've named does not wear the number 8.
Willie Stargell did back in the day. Classic.
Ryan Braun did.
Ryan Braun should have been ran out of town on a rail, but we're not going to go down that path.
You made me angry.
Yeah, well, we're not going to open that wound. But Lamar Jackson is going to court against Troy Aikman because Troy Aikman tried to trademark the number 8. He wants to put...
I think he trademarked the
letters.
words.
Yeah, I was going to say, he wants to have clothing come out with the word 8 written out on it. And Lamar Jackson's like, you can't trademark a number.
He's not trademarking a number.
He's trademarking the EIGHT.
Word.
Can't trademark a word like that. I mean,
It is spelled so weird. You ever realize that? EIGHT. Like, how does that spell 8?
Would you rather have it be ATE?
I mean, it makes more sense.
And I'm wondering if Aaron Rodgers is going to jump onto this because he also wears number 8.
I mean, he's political bound, so he has to be careful what he jumps into.
It's strange that you're going to try to trademark something like that.
Everybody do this stuff all the time. Paris Hilton tried to trademark "That's hot." The Kardashians, I don't remember what word they tried to trademark or phrase or whatever. People do it all the time.
Yeah, and I'm glad they're going to stop it.
Yeah.
I mean,
He trademarked words. I mean, sports talk with Dad.
That's iconic, and it's several words. This is one word for his number. And yes, he's a Hall of Famer. Everybody knows he wore number 8 in Dallas. Great. You can't put it on your trademark it so you can just put it on your clothes because Lamar Jackson may want to do that later on.
But nobody's done it, though.
The court's going to have to decide this one.
I mean, this is just Troy Aikman coming up with a cool idea and people getting upset because, like, well, that's my number.
It'll sell so much in Dallas if he gets away with it.
Well, and Lamar Jackson's idea was, well, people could get confused. Well, no, people are going to buy it, and you're not going to make any money off of it, even though you're number 8, too. I think it's a clever idea.
I don't think it's going to win.
I don't know.
Why
wouldn't it?
Because I don't think he can trademark just a number.
He's not trademarking a number.
He's trademarking
a word.
Yes.
You can trademark words.
I don't think he'd trademark the spelling of a number.
Why?
Because it's there for the general population to use. Does that mean every time I have to write the word 8 out in a check, I have to give a royalty to Troy Aikman?
It's only if you make clothing with the word 8 on it.
Yeah.
And you sell that.
It's very clever on his behalf.
Fox trademarked an animal.
Okay. There wasn't another Fox out there being used that way.
Okay.
There's a lot of number 8s.
People still sell shirts with foxes on them, with the word Fox on them, and Fox doesn't just get to go sue them over it. And they yet have the word Fox trademarked.
They do. And I don't think he's going to win. It's going to be fun to find out, though, because I always like seeing these kind of things end up in court.
I just don't see how he could lose.
I think he's going to lose. I think they're going to say, no, you cannot trademark the spelling of a number.
But it's for clothing. The difference is you look like the Paris Hilton, that's hot. Like, no, you can't trademark because people also use, like, it's hot outside or the stove, that's hot. Like, you can't just trademark a very common phrase that you made into something weird.
Right.
This is something, it's just the name of his clothing line.
I just don't think, I think Lamar Jackson's got the point. In the end, I think he's going to win.
But he's not trademarked. It's a clothing line.
Yes. Maybe Lamar Jackson also wanted to do a clothing line with a letter or the number 8 written on it.
And he wouldn't be able to do it either. Because, that's the thing. Like, nobody's going to ever be able to do this. Because if all of a sudden you say, hey, you can't do this, then you can't do this. So it's not like Lamar Jackson can turn around.
Wait a minute. If it does get approved, then who is going to be Will Tom Brady have 12s everywhere?
TB12's trademarked.
Yeah, TB12.
Right. Trademarked.
Okay, fine.
That's his.
Yeah, because the TB is an identifier. If he does TA8, fine. He's identifying it with himself. Just having 8 doesn't.
Yeah, but TB12 rolls off the tongue really easily. TA8 doesn't. That sounds dumb. And so you need to just make it 8 as a clothing line, which is a really cool clothing line name.
I don't think he's going to win. I just don't.
But do you agree that that's a really cool name for a clothing line?
No, because I'm not a Troy Aikman fan.
This isn't about being Troy Aikman. That's clever.
I
like it. I think it would be really cool.
You could have AR8.
See, who's the Hall of Famer?
Well, they're both going to be Hall of Famers. What are you talking about? Aaron Rodgers would do it much cooler because he's got better marketing people.
AR12?
Or
if he would have been 15, that would have been awesome. Then he'd be AR15.
He can't be.
No, he can. I mean, Bart Starr's BS15 doesn't sound that cool.
No.
BF4 sounds stupid. I'm just saying, if Aaron Rodgers would have been 15, he would have been AR15. That would have been a really cool thing.
We'll see. I didn't know if you'd seen the story.
I did, and I don't see how Troy Aikman loses this fight because he's not trademarking a number. He's trademarking a word. And he's just trademarking it for clothing. Lamar Jackson's argument, you've heard Lamar Jackson's argument, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
That people will be confused at which number 8 they're buying from. It's like, no, you just want to get paid anytime somebody buys number 8.
Wait a minute. So Troy Aikman is successful, and he trademarks the word 8.
Yeah.
And starts selling it in purple and black.
Yeah.
In Baltimore.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I can see where Lamar Jackson may have a problem with that.
Yeah, but that's not Troy's problem.
No, but I can see where
Lamar Jackson's not happy with this. I completely understand Lamar Jackson's point of view.
Now, I
don't think he has a case here.
I think he will, because he's probably was thinking the same thing. Aikman just beat him to it.
Listen, I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on TV. I know the law as much as I know the McDonald's menu, which means I don't know it at all. But, I know a little. I know chicken nuggets. I know Big Mac.
Yeah, I was going to say, McDonald's, you know it front ways, back ways, up ways, down ways.
Do you know the last time I've been to McDonald's? I haven't been to McDonald's probably 6 years.
Food is the same.
After I learned how they made their French fries, like how their potatoes are grown, I don't go there anymore.
All I know is they used to be better when they were fried in beef tallow.
Well, and here's the thing, too, with McDonald's. It's like you went there because it was cheap, not because you like the food.
You don't go there now because
and now
cheap.
A Big Mac's like $10. Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, I'll make my own hamburger for less.
Okay, we just went down a really strange world.
But again, I don't know anything, so maybe somebody who's a lawyer that watches the show, which probably not because intelligent people, I'm sure, don't watch our show.
They do it to laugh at
Well,
us.
then I question their intelligence. But if you are a lawyer, let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. Because I just don't see how a court can rule in Lamar Jackson's favor here. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but I could be wrong.
We're going to find out.
Completely be wrong.
We're going to find out.
But you and I have had a great show. But as you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word, so it is all you.
We're going to continue along the line of not knowing who's on your team. I just saw Luke Fickell's press day because it's a Big Ten rollout weekend. I'm sorry. When I was growing up, I used to watch college football, and I knew who my team was going to be for 4 years and who the new players were. I don't know it for 4 seconds anymore. Because with NIL, it's as bad as free agency in any other sport. Players going in, players going out. The only thing that makes them the same was when they get on your team, they have your logo on the helmet. This has got to be rolled back. NIL has gotten way out of line. These kids are going everywhere chasing a buck, and the only ones that win on it are the Alabamas, the Ohio States, who just load up their team year after year with all these guys chasing a buck, and they've got the money in their pocket to do it. USC is starting to figure it out. They're going to be in the Big Ten this year, by the way. But for the rest of college football, nobody has. If you've got a star player you've developed, all of a sudden he has junior year, he has a breakout year, he's going to be with somebody else next year. signing for the biggest contract unless your team can match it and keep them there. College football, you need to get a handle on this because you're losing your fans, because your fans are the ones who want to see the same team and build a team over a period of 4 years where you know who's wearing what number during the season. Now you have no idea. Wisconsin's a case in point. I have zero idea who their quarterback is going to be this year. Ask me that 5 years ago, and I would have told you exactly who was on the team and who was going to be the quarterback of the future. Now I have no idea. So hopefully college football will get this taken care of. They'll break off from the NCAA and rewrite the rule books because NIL will destroy college football in very short order.
You don't know who your quarterback's going to be this year for Wisconsin?
Who
As
knows?
an Ohio State fan, I know who my quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, because you paid him a couple years ago.
It's the kid from Kansas State.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly my point.
Thank you so much always for watching. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.